So for the past couple of months, there has been much debate, quarreling, dare I say, back and forth over what the future of Kadokawa Corporation and Sony holds, because it's been discussed many, many times over that they are interested in doing a buyout for Sony to take them over. And most notably, the guys over at Kadokawa, they said that they wanted a full buyout. They did not want Sony to just buy a little chunk. They wanted a full buyout. They didn't want to just sell FromSoftware. That they're the parent company of FromSoftware, to be clear. They didn't want to just sell their magazine department or whatever. They wanted to sell the whole company. Debates ensued, further went along the way, and there's been resolution. They've come to an agreement. On January 7th, Sony is going to conduct a third-party allotment, or rather Kadokawa Corporation is going to conduct a third-party allotment where Sony will be allowed to acquire roughly 12 million new shares of the corporation for approximately $320 million US. And with this acquisition of shares, Sony will become the largest shareholder of the company and will gain a total stake, including their current stake. So total, their ownership of the company will be 10%. They have clarified Sony Group Corporation currently does not plan to acquire additional Kadokawa Corporation shares after the execution of this acquisition. So far from the buyout that we were discussing previously. Why this fell through in the original form, who knows? As I told you guys when we talked about this on stream, what had happened was Sony had talked to Kadokawa and they were discussing back and forth, and they wrote letters of intent to acquire. Basically what that is just like if you want to buy a house, or I did this in real estate when I worked selling apartment buildings. If there were a buyer that really liked, say, an apartment building on College Avenue in Fort Collins, Colorado, they look at that, they're like, it's a $10 million building based on my guesses of what the metrics are. So I'm going to write the owner of that building a letter of intent to acquire or intent to purchase. And I, as the broker, will bring that letter to that building owner and say, look, it is a serious offer. They intend to acquire it, but they need to look over your financials. They need to inspect the building, and then they'll write you the formal offer that is contractually binding like that. And upon completing that investigation, you either make the official offer or you back out or alter your offer, etc. But it's a way to formally say, I want to buy your shiz, okay? What happened here is that they entered into that second phase where they were reviewing company financials, where they were debating what things looked like on the inside. And after that analysis, Sony decided, apparently to their mutual agreement, that they were only going to take 10% of the company. It could be that other portions of the business are not as profitable. Sony didn't think it was worth the original purchase price or the price that Kadokawa wanted for them. Who knows? Maybe as part of this, they acquired 10% of the company, but they also acquired exclusive marketing rights for future FromSoftware titles. That could be a big part of it. This is something that Sony's done during the PS5 era, which has actually proven quite successful, which is that they don't buy out the exclusive contract for a game. They will buy the exclusive marketing rights, which means in all of those trailers, they have the PlayStation logo pop up, or they have the console pop up at the end of the trailer. And it sort of passively makes you think the game is exclusive, even though it isn't. A great example of this was how they handled the marketing for Hogwarts Legacy, where they had all of these trailers, the reveal trailer, for example, where they show off the game. And then at the very end, watch what happens. Live the Unwritten 2021. And then the PlayStation logos. And it ended up being kind of brilliant because people thought this was exclusive. They didn't realize it was also coming to PS or to Xbox, but it was. They just like conveniently don't mention that because they have the exclusive marketing rights. And so it looks like they probably have some deal as part of this 10% acquisition to probably do something like that. So for whatever FromSoftware's next game is, the trailer will happen and it's only advertised at PlayStation showcases, and they put the PS5 logo next to it. It's all PS5 Pro enhanced and things like that, which is fine. I mean, I think that's whatever. But it's far from the total buyout that was initially being discussed, which would have been probably over $3.5 billion US. And so something happened behind the scenes where Sony was not excited enough to just buy them out fully, even though they sort of have, as far as I can tell, they have the money based on the financials I've read from Sony. They also had a big deal with an Indian company. It was a $10 billion US dollar merger where this Indian company was going to merge with Sony India, and Sony pulled out of the deal because they didn't like it back in January. Something happened. And now after this news of the Kadokawa thing not being a full buyout, Z Entertainment is reaching back out to Sony to try and revive it because they are like, oh, you still have all that money. You still have a lot of money that you had set aside for a merger, acquisition, whatever. You didn't spend it on Kadokawa. So maybe we do this deal anyways. And so we'll see if that actually happens. But I do find it interesting that something happened in the last couple of weeks where Sony had a change of heart and didn't think they wanted to buy them out fully. But because we live in a weird and ill-informed industry, I guess, there are people that don't understand what words mean. And so you've seen people on X, your typical like Sony pony type accounts, who are now claiming that Elden Ring is a Sony first-party studios game. Let the tears flow. Sony believes in exclusives. Hashtag PlayStation. How do I explain this? If we have, let's put it in terms that are easy to maybe understand for somebody on this level, okay? If we have a pizza and you have a tenth of the pizza, you have a slice. Did you eat the whole pizza? No? Okay. If you buy 10% of a company, do you own the company? Yes? No. Back to the pizza example. If we have one slice, do we have the whole pizza? No. Okay. If you own a sliver of something, it does not mean you own it. And the definition of Sony first party studio is that Sony owns the studio. I could even make an exception if they own the majority. If they own 51% of a studio, maybe then you call it a first party studio. I could forgive you for that. But 10%, is that the standard? So by that standard, if it's like, if you own any portion of a company, of a developer, you therefore can call it a first party game. So if I go out right now and I buy a single share of Take-Two Interactive stock, I own a sliver of the pie of the pizza. Does that mean that Rockstar is now owned by me? That GTA 6 is a Luke Stevens video game? Like, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. But you know, it's people that I don't think understand words. You see some of these. I can't tell if he's trolling. I don't think he is. If a game is on PC, it's not exclusive. FPC. Boom, roasted. Got him. Okay. Whatever. I'm slowly losing faith in humanity as we talk about this stuff, but it's not, I think, the result a lot of people expected, because they previously said they wanted to acquire the company. They had an intent to acquire the full company and acquire all of Kadokawa Corporation, including FromSoftware. But something happened where they chose not to go that route and instead are just getting a little bitty sliver. I don't think they care that much about the cash flow generated from them. So I'm guessing most of this deal includes secondary bonuses and perks, like the ability to have exclusive marketing rights for FromSoftware games, like the ability to maybe distribute some of the other like TV, anime type of things that Kadokawa Corporation owns and put those up on Crunchyroll, things like that. So I think that that's the key point. I think that that's mostly what this deal was for. And it is still probably a good business move for Sony, but it's not the move I think PlayStation fanboys were hoping for, where all of a sudden Elden Ring 2 is exclusive to PS5. Like, that's not what's going to happen here. This is good for fending off Tencent. The thing is, Kadokawa Corporation wanted to sell the entire company. They wanted to be bought out. So they weren't trying to fend anybody off. They didn't like the idea of Tencent as a Chinese company buying them out as a Japanese company, and maybe that's all it really is. But having a 10% shareholder, I don't think really would make the difference, because like it's a lot of institutional owners, and institutional owners don't tend to be that, in some cases they are, but they don't tend to be that opposed to buyouts, because they're just looking for a good exit in terms of their final position. So if they exit having made 30%, they're happy, you know, whether it's a Chinese company or Japanese company, they're happy. If it's more individual investors like the Guillemot family with Ubisoft that owns that, they have a vested interest. They want to keep their jobs. They want to keep control of the company. So they're not going to go off and do it. You know, for them, it's not just about the money. They want to maintain control. The console exclusive equals value mindset is out of date, shallow, and inaccurate. Xbox shifting its marketing really does nothing except increase accessibility, and that's a great thing for consumers. Yeah, I think I generally agree with that. I really think it is this like 2007 way of thinking, where it's my team has these games, your team has those games, and my team's games are better than your team's games. Therefore, I win. Like, it's this tribalistic way of thinking that I get can be fun. Like, it's the same thing that happens with frickin' sports in general. Like, my team is better than your team, rah rah, shut up. Like, I just don't understand it. It drives me crazy. My pet peeve is it can't run anything today without DLSS. Yeah, that's also true. That's a big problem. He took my thing.